Hello everyone, Author Abhishek Vipul Thakkar here. In today's video lecture, I'll be talking about Spensarian poets and why are they significant, why are they relevant, why are these Spensarian poets so important, why are they relevant, why are they indispensable when we are trying to understand, when we are trying to analyze the poetry of the Puritan age. The major poets of the Puritan age can be divided into three categories. They can be divided into three categories. Number one, the Spensarian poets. Number two, the Cavalier poets. And number three is the metaphysical poets. The Spensarian poets. Who are these Spensarian poets and why are they significant? Why are they relevant? Spensarian poets, as the word evinces, as the word indicates, they styled themselves after the school of Spenser. They were basically the followers of Spenser. They were the disciples of Spenser. They were so impressed. They were so impressed with Spenser. They were so influenced. They were so influenced by Spenser that they wanted to carry certain elements of Spenser's work. We have to understand that Edmund Spenser continued to cast his influence. Spenser continued to cast his influence on some of the major writers and poets of the Age of Milton or the Puritan Age. Spensarian poets, as the word indicates, they were those poets who styled themselves after the school of Spenser. They were the followers of Spenser. They tried to copy or imitate certain elements of Spenser's work. I would like to specifically point out that these poets were trying to emulate certain nuances of Spenser's work. Okay, in today's video lecture, I'll be talking about Spensarian poets and specifically I'll be discussing Phineas Fletcher as an important Spensarian poet and his contribution in the world of literature. So let's begin with Phineas Fletcher. Phineas Fletcher lived from the year 1582 till the year 1650. He was baptized on 8th April 1582. He was born at Cranbrook, Kent, and he took his holy orders in the year 1621. He was the son of Dr. Giles and brother of the more talented Giles Fletcher, who was his younger brother. When we look at the verse of Phineas Fletcher, when we behold his verse is fluent and musical. His verse is fluent and musical, but it lacks the majesty, it lacks the grandeur, it lacks the greatness, it lacks the sublimity, it lacks the loftiness which is found in his brother's work, which is so striking in his brother Giles Fletcher's work. That sublimity, that grandeur, that majesty, that loftiness is inherently lacking in Phineas Fletcher's work. Okay, let's talk about his education. Both the brothers, Phineas Fletcher and Giles Fletcher, went to Cambridge, but Phineas Fletcher went to Eton College. He went to Eton College, Cambridge. He completed his BA in the year 1604 and he completed his master's or his post-graduation in the year 1608. His earliest works appeared in Sorrow's Joy. Which was compiled at the university in the year 1603. Please remember, NET aspirants, Ph.D. entrance test aspirants or MA entrance test aspirants, that is earliest works. Phineas Fletcher's earliest works appeared in Sorrow's Joy, which is a poetic miscellany which was compiled at the university in the year 1603. He took his holy orders in the year 1621 and obtained his living at Helgate, Norfolk. When we try to understand his literary contribution, we have to take one important work into account. That is the Purple Island. The Purple Island, published in the year 1633, is a scientific as well as a religious poem. It is also called the Purple Island or the Isle of Man, the Island of Man. Man is the focus in this work. The Purple Island, published in the year 1633, contains the allegorical description of man. It was published in the year 1633 and it allegorically describes the physiological structure of the human mind and human body. It allegorically describes the physiological structure of the human mind and human body. It also describes the intellectual and spiritual functions of the man. Okay, it describes the corporeal function and the intellectual functions of the man, and that is why, because it describes the spiritual and intellectual functions of the man, it is considered to be a scientific as well as a religious poem. This great work is dedicated to his friend Edward Benlow. Please remember, aspirants, please remember that this work, The Purple Island or the Isle of Man, published in the year 1633, is dedicated to his friend Edward Benlow. Okay, it also included his piscatory eclogues. Now, what are these eclogues? Eclogues are basically a set of poems. They are basically a set of poems, or it is a poem in which shepherds are conversing. They are a set of poems in which shepherds are conversing. So, the Purple Island contained the piscatory eclogues, which are basically a series of pastorals in which characters were fishermen on the banks of Cam. Characters were basically fishermen, and it also included his other poetic miscellanies. So we have discussed the first important work of Phineas Fletcher, and let's look at his other important works. His other important works include, number 1, The Locusts. It was published in the year 1627. It was published in the year 1627, and it is a satire against Jesuits. It basically tries to attack the Jesuits. It contains parallel poems written in Latin and English. It is basically a set of parallel poems written in Latin and English which tries to attack the Jesuits. Next, the third important work is Slides. It is a pastoral play. It is not a series of poems. Slides is a pastoral play which was written during the reign of King James I. It was written during the reign of King James I, but produced ultimately after the departure of King James I. It was published in the year 1631. The Locusts is a satire against the Jesuits. It was written in the year 1627, and the third important work, that is Slides, it's a pastoral play which was written during the reign of King James I and produced after the reign of King James I in the year 1631. There is a difference of 4 years here. And the first important work, The Purple Island came in the year 1633. He also wrote other works such as The Way to Blessedness, Blessedness or A Joy in Tribulation, The Way to Blessedness, A Joy in Tribulation, and he also wrote an erotic poem. That is Britain Ida. So, what are the names of his important works? Number 1, The Purple Island. Number 2, The Locusts. Number 3, Slides. Number 4, Britain Ida, which is an erotic poem. Number 5, The Way to Blessedness or The Way to Blessedness. Number 6 work is A Joy in Tribulation. These are the important works. The Purple Island describes it is an allegorical description of the physiological structure of the human mind and body. It describes the intellectual and spiritual functions of the man. It is dedicated to his friend Edward Benlow. It also includes piscatory eclogues, which are a set of poems in which shepherds are conversing. Eclogues are a set of poems in which shepherds are conversing. Piscatory eclogues is a series of pastorals in which fishermen are the characters. And when we look at his other works like The Locusts was published in the year 1627, and The Locusts is basically a satire against the Jesuits. It contains parallel poems written in Latin and English. Okay, it contains parallel poems written in Latin and English which are trying to attack the Jesuits. Number third, Size Lights. It is a pastoral play. It is a pastoral play which was written during the reign of King James I. It was written during the reign of King James I and produced after the departure of King James I. It was published in the year 1631. He also wrote an erotic poem, that is Britain Ida. His other works include A Joy and Tribulation. The Way to Blessedness, and he died in Helge in the year 1650. So that's it for today. We discussed the introduction of Spensarian poetry, the orientation of Spensarian poets, and I discussed Phineas Fletcher in detail. In the next lecture, I'll be talking about Giles Fletcher, so stay tuned for more updates. Thank you for listening, and if you like this video, please share it with your friends and ask them to subscribe to my channel.